I hope that it's such a success that the corporate heads of office take notice of that and start deciding to give back creative control to the devs, to the people who are really bringing the ideas to the table.
I think a lot of people start out that don't know a lot about Twitch. They just want to record, and then when people start chatting, they get kind of caught off guard. And then when you start like seeing the same people coming back, it's like this weird like warm feeling, and that's why I've stuck with Twitch. Welcome to Emotive, Episode 1. I'm your host, Dan, also known as Orangesherbet. Today on the show is my friend herbbug, who has been instrumental in helping me get this podcast started. We talk about how we met through Twitch.tv and our decision-making process when it comes to choosing what games to play, and perhaps what caused us not to want to play certain games. Just a quick note about the editing in this episode. We recorded during a live broadcast on Twitch, so that explains a lot of the weird cuts that happen in this episode. All social media links and notes from the show are in the description of the episode. Enjoy the show. I approached herbbug quite a long time ago about starting a podcast. I know that everybody has a podcast nowadays, but I've loved podcasts for a long time, for almost 10 years now. And time just like is a weird thing. Seems to go by faster.
Right.
I don't know what it is.
Time is relative, right? The more
Yeah.
time you experience, the faster it seems to go by, sort of thing.
Yeah, it's so strange, but it's a little scary when you think about like 10 really I've been listening to podcasts for 10 years. Huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Someone the other day haphazardly mentioned like when some movie came out or something, and I was like, wasn't that recently? But it was actually like 10 years ago, and I was like, what the
Yeah. Yeah, what does recent mean? I think about it like classic rock stations.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in my day, the classic rock was like 70s and 80s. Well, not even 80s because I grew up in the 80s. So what was it? Was it like 60s and 70s? I guess it was. But nowadays, what is classic rock? Like classic rock, like the definition really hasn't changed, but it should. It should be like into the 90s now because the 90s were fucking almost 30 years ago.
Yeah, but would you?
So
What is 90s music? Could you even call it?
Call it classic. Are you shitting on the 90s rock, bro? I mean, I'd more shit on the early 2000s.
Oh yeah, easily.
Like late 90s, early 2000s.
The 90s were great.
It just doesn't hold up. It just doesn't hold up.
For sure. No, I'm there with you.
And you know what? Like you and I had some really good discussions when I first met you. I just thought that you're a good person to bounce ideas back and forth on because our brains work differently, but we can have a calm conversation even if we disagree a little bit. Yeah.
I enjoy playing the devil's advocate in a lot of situations.
Yeah, I mean that's not a bad. That's one thing that if you listen to Joe Rogan, that's what he does. He loves playing the devil's advocate.
How do you feel about Hideo Kojima's Death Stranding? Since you don't play PlayStation games.
Well, I actually watched the trailer, and I don't really get into single player games much, but when it has a really unique, crazy story, so many games are cinematic, so you can think of them more as an interactive movie than a game, I guess. You know,
I feel like storytelling in games in the past 5 years, at least, if not maybe even more, has gone downhill, and I feel like we need more story driven. Like heavy story-driven games that are like well done. So I'm really excited.
Don't you feel that developers just try to feed the products that the consumers want a lot of times, and creativity kind of goes by the wayside a lot of times? And I don't know what it is, man. Like they could hire better writers or something.
I guess what it came down to is they look at what's successful, and when what is successful on more than one occasion in what we would dub recent times, which is kind of interesting how it ties into our previous conversation about music, is that they go, oh, okay, look at the success of PUBG, for example. What's the story there? How many writers did they have? Oh, it was like a pseudo-adopted idea from this movie, yada, yada, yada. And so they kind of write the people in the suits, the bureaucrats write it off, I imagine, as like, oh, we don't need this for it to be a success. This is what the people want. And then everyone sort of kind of what's the word? Rounds them. They're like cattle, right? They round themselves into this format, I guess. But I
Are you talking about the developers round themselves into the format?
well, I mean, it's not just
Are you
that
talking about
developers, they're like swords for hire, sort of, right? They're employees oftentimes, so they
the
are sort
creative director, the person at the top who's like pulling all the strings?
yeah, I mean, to a degree. I mean, it is we always have to it's so hard to think of it as just a machine with each individual part and how they all come together. But really, at the end of the day, there are shareholders that need to be satisfied.
Yeah.
There are directors, creative directors, managers, etc., and they all have their own. They all it's like too many cooks in the kitchen, right? Too many cooks.
Yeah, man. Well, there's certainly room for single player games, but it's got to be a great experience. And there's the argument that platforms like YouTube and Twitch have watered it down because you can just go watch someone's playthrough rather than spending $60. So it better damn well have some good marketing behind it, so people are going to want to buy it no matter what. I think that platform exclusivity makes a difference too.
Yeah,
It just has to feel special, right?
right.
It has to be something that people really, really fucking want. And I don't know, like I don't know, like it's got to be so challenging
Well, in the example of
to make your money back.
right, in the example of Hideo Kojima, it's interesting because he was, was it Konami before? Like, all the Metal Gear and
Yeah,
everything, like, huge successes and everything, but essentially, one after the other, his brainchild, but then sort of skewed along from the corporate side of things, eventually led to them splitting, yeah? They went their own ways, and now what is it called? Kojima's own production company now.
right. Kojima something.
It might even be just Kojima Productions. I wish I was more,
Yeah.
well versed, but allowing himself the creative freedom to, I don't actually know what it's called. Should we yeah, I'm gonna Google it. I hope that it's such a success that the corporate, it is Kojima Productions, that the corporate sort of heads of office or whatever take notice of that and start deciding to give the either creative directors or, giving back creative control somewhat to the devs, to the people who are really bringing the ideas to the table, you know what I mean?
It's if it's a big company, they have a lot of people to answer
Mhm.
to, so they want to go with a sure thing many times, you know.
Definitely, I can't argue against that.
Is that now before I move on to this other thing? Is that like a PlayStation exclusive?
As far as we know for the moment, yes.
Yeah, right. Kind of a bummer, but PlayStation, I would say, like, from my opinion, I think they've had the best like exclusive titles out of any platform. If you want to talk about like exclusivity in consoles, I think they've had the best. At least my favorites to watch as a observer, anyway.
I, originally got a PlayStation 2 before getting an Xbox, so that's my stance on the whole argument. I had both, but I got the PlayStation 2.
I don't have a preference. I don't have a preference. I've really dug the PlayStation exclusive titles. I've liked them a lot.
I mean, like, I don't have a PlayStation 4, I'm probably gonna get one just
I've never really said this to a lot of people. I'm a big fan of the Uncharted series. That's not controversial or surprising, but I had a PS3 and I fell in love with I think it was Uncharted 2. Played Uncharted 2 and 3 or something. But those are really great. I want to just for posterity, I wanted to figure out when I always ask this question, I always forget. Like, when did we actually meet? I know that we met through somebody's stream. But before that, I guess I want to explain to people like where I came from and like how we got to
mhm.
where we are now. So, I started streaming on this account in 2012 playing DayZ. And I yeah, and somewhere along the way we met. But through that time, there was the mod, the black. I got invited to the Blacklist streaming team in 2013. Smack invite, and it's funny thinking about that now. I was about to quit it streaming, and I was about to quit streaming in 2000. Well, I did quit in 2011. I came back in 2012. I was going to quit again in 2013 in the summer, and then Smack invited me to the Blacklist. I kind of got reinvigorated, and then the mod kind of kind of ended, and then I always thought like, oh, Arma 3 is going to be the next big thing, and it was kind of cool for like a minute, and
Arma
then
3?
yeah, and I actually got partnered because of Arma 3 and Epoch Mod specifically. These are just cliff notes. This could be like an hour long description of all this shit, but I kind of wanted to give a little context, like where I came from and kind of the path to how we met,
Right.
because you didn't really have the same. We weren't necessarily playing the same games before that, you know. Like how did you get started?
On Twitch?
Right,
I joined I joined Twitch initially as a viewer, and I joined specifically to get in-game currency for Warframe from the
that was
dev
it.
streams
That was it.
originally. That was my first
Yeah.
foray into Twitch, the world
Hmm.
of Twitch. And then from there, when the devs weren't streaming, I perused the site to look for other content, and I found DayZ. At the time, it was already past the days of DayZ mod, and it was the time of DayZ
Right.
standalone. So I was the two big names that I was hanging out in was Joshua, I Win You Lose Lol back then, and John of All Games.
Yep.
For a long time, I was just a viewer and player. And eventually got to the point where I decided I wanted to stream because I felt like I had, these quirky interactions with people, whether they were friends or just people you end up interacting with online. And so I felt like I wanted to share that experience with other people. Like I felt like it was wasted on just me. Not saying that I'm not grateful of that experience, but I just felt like there was something there that was worthwhile, worth sharing. So it wasn't like this allure of like, oh, I want to be a streamer because I can make money from it or something like that,
It's almost like it's
or
almost
I
like
want to be
it's almost like
famous.
fear of missing out or something, right? But not the actual uh, definition of that. It's more like fear of not having something recorded, whatever that is.
I guess.
Yeah, I mean, if it's not recorded for like Pixar, it didn't happen used to be the old thing, right?
Right. Picture it didn't happen. Good
Well, it
meme
used to be
reference.
like in my day, it was like screenshots of the scoreboard. You playing Counter Strike, I mean, but my urge to record like that went back to my Counter Strike days. I used to make little crappy montage videos. I always wanted to like, no, CS 1.6, man, 1.5 actually. My first montage video, I actually made it using the record feature in the console. It recorded bitmap images, and you would have to take those and convert those into a video file. Had no audio with it.
That's weird.
It's so crazy. Moving forward to other games, I just want to like prove people like I'm good. Like, hey, I'm good,
I'm
man.
good.
I'm good.
Cool things happen
Check this
sometimes. All
out.
right.
Check out my montage of single frags. Like, like check out this one dig, bro. Anyway, so when it came to Twitch, I was playing a game called APB, All Points Bulletin, now
Mhm.
known as APB Reloaded.
I think I met you though through the blacklist, so
Of
it had to be
course,
that
it had to be.
integration
It
through
had to be through iWins,
Highway.
and
Yeah,
I
it
don't
had
know.
to have been.
We ended up in a Discord together because we were going to be playing a game or something. I wonder.
We ended up I think the first game we ended up actually playing together was the 4th,
Oh shit! Nice.
because we haven't even since then, we've spent more time talking to each other than actually playing games
Hell,
together.
I've been spending more time talking than actually playing games lately, so that's not too surprising. Anyway, just to wrap up the whole
Intro
the whole the
segment.
whole like historical reference for everything. Like, I just always like to record my shit, in APB it was a big thing to stream to prove you're not cheating. Even though people had cheats that would be just like an overlay. They had them in different games too. I think like War Z and other shitty games had these like overlay cheats that people could have. They would overlay over the game capture. Like unless you're using monitor capture, people wouldn't be able to see your cheat anyway.
Oh, I
But
see what you're saying. Yeah.
yeah, it was some strange thing. I actually started streaming. I had one monitor, and then I had a what did I have? I had a laptop that I would read the chat, and then the chat started moving a little bit, and I'm like, well, I need to get a second monitor so I can actually like chatting while I'm like, what the hell? This is kind of cool. Like, you actually get to.
People actually wanna talk to me while I'm playing these games? Like,
Yeah, that's I was just like I think a lot of people start out that don't know a lot about Twitch. they just want to record, and then when people start chatting, they get kind of caught off guard. And then
Mhm.
when you start like seeing the same people coming back, it's like this weird like warm feeling, and that's why I've stuck with Twitch, and that's why like
So wholesome.
it is wholesome, man. It is wholesome, and I think that there's been times where I've gotten stressed out about certain people joining the chat, and I get so defensive. I'm kind of over that, and I'm definitely like I haven't streamed in quite a long time, to be honest. I don't know what it is. The reason why it's just like it's more like less enthusiasm for playing games. I never want to go. I never want to show people a bad face. I never want to be like unenthusiastic about shit, because like people are. I am conscious of people, spending their time watching and listening. It's like, well, it's got to be worth it, right? Like, and if it's not, if it's
Right, you wanna, like, maintain a certain standard.
yeah, and if I don't feel like it's worth it to me, then what the hell? I don't want people to like see me and then like write me off because just always so self-conscious, really. It's dumb. It's weird.
I came to terms with, like, some of those same feelings at some point as well, and I sort of, watered it down to the whole, like, grassroots sort of approach that I wanna take to things is that I want to bring myself to the channel. That's why I enjoy having a smaller audience because I can actually connect with people. I can actually have conversations with people. I feel like because I am human, I the people that are watching me want to watch me because I'm not putting on so much a show. Like sometimes I will go out of my comfort zone and try to put on more of a show, but I feel like I owe it to them to be as legitimate as possible.
Authentic.
And oftentimes,
It's
yeah, authentic.
authentically you. You have a personality, so when you're excited, it
My
comes out.
personality is the salty as
Yeah,
shit, salty as
dude.
shit, always bitching. Motherfucker killed me from through the
Yeah, but
wall.
for some
He's
reason, dude,
cheating.
I'm gonna tell you this. Watching you, like the tone of your voice doesn't get hostile. Like I get hostile when I'm pissed, stuff like that. And the tone of my voice changes, and you can tell when I'm legitimately like angry. And with you, if you're angry during, I see it, but it's not turned up all the way. Like you're like if you were like a pepper, you're like a jalapeno, somewhere in between a jalapeno and a habanero. I come out, I come out in somewhere a few more Scoville units than that. I think people's perception, maybe not. I don't know, maybe not.
Yeah, you're under your own microscope though,
That's
so
right.
everything that is apparent is gonna be,
Yeah.
augmented tenfold for you
Of
because
course. Yeah, I'm
you're,
super always super critical.
self-conscious.
Everybody's self-conscious. That's the
Yeah,
whole thing that you realize as time goes on is like everybody goes like everybody's you're not unique in the fact that you have emotions. Like everybody has them. It's just the way it goes. And everybody doesn't like the sound of their own voice and everybody doesn't really like looking in the mirror that much.
yeah, I
I
don't
don't
like
know
the
if that's
sound of my
true.
voice on the telephone. The telephone fucks me up more than anything. But, going back to that note about, self-consciousness, like, anytime I'm feeling, like, overly self-conscious, I try to remind myself that other people are in that same boat. They're paying too much attention to themselves to be worried about you sort of thing, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Hmm.
It's definitely good to have perspective and on a lot of different fronts.
And what also helps is just to vent a little bit sometimes
Oh,
and
for
get it
sure.
out there because with this fucking podcast, man, I've been stewing on this for like 2 years, and it just always, dude, I'm serious, and it's just being honest about it, and I'll start working on it, and I'll be like, well, fuck, it's never gonna be good enough. Like it's never gonna. I'm never gonna have like a great plan. I get scared. I'm like, well, what if I put it out and people just hate it and they just like don't want to listen. And I realize like we got to start somewhere. It's not going to be good when I start, and it's not because of you or I or whatever. It's going to be a learning process. There's not like I'm not a seasoned pro. I've listened to a lot of people do them, but that doesn't mean that I can make one. Doesn't mean that I'm going to be a pro at making one. I'm going to be able to take some inspiration, but I just want to start. I want to start just talking about stuff. I want to record it. I want to put it together. I want to see if people will be wanting to listen to it and
I'm sure that the
just find and find some inspiration from others. Maybe people can send in some things that they're thinking about. Yeah, some topics, some shit that's
what do you like about video games? What do you not like about video games? What do you like about the culture behind it and all of those things? Or
Yeah.
what
And we can drill it down a bit more specific because there was a topic. The first topic for this podcast that I wanted to do was going to be called deal breakers. And what that means is like what has a game, you can call it a game, or what has a developer or what has a company done to you that's made you not want to play it. Is it because there's no content? It's the wrong genre. The company did something super shady, which I'm going to get into in a minute as my example. It maybe you can. For me, it's like, are any of my friends playing it? Well, if they're not, then why am I going to spend money on it?
Right.
And also, like I know you've bought games, and then people just stop playing
Mhm.
inexplicably, and then playing solo sucks.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It does, but I guess it depends on what you're looking for as well when it comes to games. For me
Mhm.
personally, though, what really kind of gets under my skin is like when developer or the powers that be, whatever you want to call them, split the community with paid DLC or some kind of paywall, something that's not. For example, Payday 2 was my go-to example of this, where like they did have some DLC that came out that weren't paid, but we'll call it like 95% of every update that included any content was paid DLC, down to like the attachments of the guns, and it really split the community up. And they didn't like, it wasn't a complete blocking or splitting of the community, because certain maps that you could only get to, for example, if you had the DLC, you could still access without it if someone who had it invited you, sort of thing, but there was still entire segments of content that were blocked off to you. It was the balance of it wasn't enough.
That
You know what I mean?
that was the question I was going to have, like how the content was locked, because I've played that game quite a bit, and I don't think I own all the DLCs, but the people I played with didn't have them either. So if I played it a lot, that would bug the shit out of me. But just to play devil's advocate a little bit, that game being a what 14.99 game, I don't know how was it $30 at some point.
Yeah, that's the other thing. It's like I bought it at like 30, $40 with like
Hmm.
hardly with no DLC, the base game, right? And then I bought like
Yeah,
one thing of DLC or two things of DLC after that. And then after seeing the pattern of how they were going about it, I kind of went, "Whoa, hold on." And then the Game of the Year edition came out with all of the other DLC that I missed for less than what I had initially paid for. And then it kind of just soured the whole experience for me, because I was sitting there having backed it early, having, put time into it, and just being kind of left high and dry. And I know that like they're trying to I understand the business side of it. They're trying to bring more attention to it. They're trying to get the pad their player base, If they offer more for less, then they can bring in people that didn't already get on the bandwagon. So I understand that, but it was a little it was a little too capitalist for me, you know what I mean?
it's easy to feel ripped off when your perceived value of a game is somewhere high and then it's sold low, like pretty within within an uncomfortable time frame when you're still playing it. I can say that for sure.
But it is a great game. It was really fun for the time I played it, and for the people that I played it with. I had a lot of fun. So I got my money's worth, so I shouldn't be complaining that much. It just kinda the way it went down was a bit of a deal breaker for me, because it was excessive. It felt like they were
Yeah,
milking it, you know?
I would honestly go back and play the stealth missions in Payday 2 again. But if there was content that was locked behind a DLC and I saw it and I wanted it, I would be kind of iffy about spending more money on the game because yeah, is it like even if it's $2, I'm like, is it worth it? Like, am I going to use it once? I kind of feel like I paid my penance, like I got it early on too. I probably paid $30 for it. I don't remember. But yeah, I would it's not a deal breaker for me. I'd still go back and play the game, but I'm definitely like weirded out by games that have just like like Borderlands has so many fucking DLCs that I don't even know if how many of them are cosmetic. I think somebody explained it to me and they said that like 90% of those are just cosmetic things and they really don't matter for gameplay, but it gets to be like a lot to keep track of and it does seem a little capitalistic, doesn't
It is funny when you see, like, the bundled edition with all of the DLC on a sale, and then they've got it tallied up for, like, the MSRP at release with all of the DLC at the price it was for release, and it comes out to, like, over $100.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Oh, but we're selling it for $20." So it's like some ridiculous discount, and you're just
Mhm.
like, but no one would buy this otherwise at this point. Like, at this point in its lifespan, no one would buy it unless it was like, a really great deal, and this is how they're driving that narrative that it's a really great deal. I don't know, it's
And
funny.
it would be interesting to hear it from a perspective of somebody who's never played like something like Payday 2, right? But I guess we wouldn't know unless we met that person because it's a pretty ubiquitous game. Like a lot of people have played it or at least heard of
Well,
it.
okay, Left
And
4
it
Dead 2, like, imagine, like, you could only play 2 zombies in the, like, versus mode instead of, like, all 4, and then you have to buy not 1 DLC for the other 2, but a DLC for each of them,
it's
you know what I
just
mean?
it's just a new era of how things are monetized, and it's not necessarily a good era because like the base game should include all of the like and I think about like the DLC versus expansion. I don't know if I'm using the right definition
I
for it,
use them
but
interchangeably.
if it's an expansion though, for me, man, it's like a lot of content. And for that, I think it's worth like a significant amount of money, like somewhere around $10, 10 to 15. But it's got to have like maps and weapons and stuff like that. But it's also a risk, right? There's like a risk of like splitting the community again, as you said. But if it's a significant step forward, it just has to you have to plan for
Well,
that shit.
it's
And
bad
if
when
it
it's,
just
like, large pieces of content, like entire maps, and then it's like everyone's been playing the old maps, so anyone who wants to play, like, still wants to play, they've bought the DLC and they're playing the new content that you don't have access to, and so you're stuck in, like, a lobby searching for players when everyone's off playing in the new maps, you know what I mean? And
Okay.
that sucks.
Okay. So let me ask you this: what would you rather see monetized? You want to see like a map or a map pack monetized, or do you want to see like skins, like all cosmetic stuff? Because those, I feel like those are like the two basic examples of how a company can quote unquote like fund their development past their
Well,
milestone, past their roadmap rather.
right, right. I feel like customization and sort of like, what would you call it? Like, flair in a way, right?
Yeah.
Is
Sure, man.
the skins. Though in a
Shenanigans.
multiplayer game, I think that really the only thing you should monetize are things that have no bearing on the actual mechanics of the game. That they don't split the community any other way other than, "Oh, this guy has so much dollars invested in the way he looks," sort of thing. Like CS:GO, I've never had a problem with that. Interestingly
Yeah.
enough, I feel like the mobile gaming industry as a market changed microtransactions in a double-edged way. You can have games that have longer lifespans, but then they have these microtransactions, and some of them are balanced, some of them are not. If you've ever played Warframe, which is funny because once again, it's
Yep.
the reason I came to Twitch in the first place. They've done the mobile microtransaction model and implemented it in a way that kind of works because you can still unlock everything by just grinding the game out, and then it's a time-based unlock, and then you can speed up the process by investing money, and the microtransactions are not only for the skins that are they're the cosmetic things, but also for buying time,
Pay to
pay to
progress.
progress,
I've seen
right,
that a lot.
and
Yeah.
they've done it in a
It,
balanced way because they're not blocking that content off for people that don't wanna pay. Those people can invest time and still unlock them.
so are you okay with let's just say a multiplayer shooter coming out in the next couple years? It's a lower retail price, somewhere around $30. This is a hypothetical game. There's nothing behind it. We're just like, let's try to build a game that's like palatable for people. That's going to be it's the this game company, they have a plan to make this game last 5 or 6 years. It costs $30 when it comes out. And with that, you get every piece of gameplay content that's going to come out. You get all the maps, you get all the weapons, you get all that shit. But there's going to be like also a progression system behind it. And the progression is you're going to unlock skins. And I'm not talking about like a battlefield type of progression. This is more like Insurgency, Sandstorm, how they did theirs. Like you don't unlock weapons through the tiers. You unlock like skins and outfits and stuff like. They're not outfits; they're uniforms. Whatever you want to call them. It is an outfit. It is a uniform. Whatever it is. Like which one's better? I don't know. Is it better to have that, or is it better to just jack the price up of the game and then pay for DLCs? Like I feel like the DLCs just split the community too much. I would rather see it monetized through customization myself.
Right. So in the example of Warframe, it's both. You do have actual content in the form of weapons
Mm.
that you can either spend time
That's a
free to play.
pure free to play
Yeah,
model
yeah.
though. Just so
It's
people
it is
know, like that game is free to play, and they need to monetize just about everything. Yeah. So we're kind of more focusing on like it's easy to make the free to play comparisons, but this is more like a retail
retail. Okay.
discussion because that's where it gets divisive. I think for people because if it's free to play, people can just like throw that game away, just delete it. Who cares? But do you feel like the more you've invested, the more time and more money you've invested, the like harder it is to get
Yeah, 'cause it does translate it gives value to your time directly because the time the is what you're
that
buying
is
with your
yeah.
currency. You're buying Cheetah. So then all of a sudden, the time you put in to unlock that thing instead of paying for it is now has
Mhm.
value, and you can actually the cool thing about it is they do have a working player dictated, economy where you can actually trade things that you've gotten in game for not real money, but for the in-game currency, which you can then spend on speeding. So other people pay for it. So it's not like it's not as restrictive where they want to get the money from you. As long as the money goes in somewhere, they allow the trading and the economy and all of that to take place, which is like it's interesting. It's very
I love that. Yeah. I love that, man. I can talk a little bit about APB Reloaded. I've been playing that game since 2010, and it's definitely a very divisive community. It's very like any kind of little changes to anything has been just like oof. And they were pretty early on as far as like and they were kind of innovative what they wanted to do. They wanted to be an open world GTA shooter with intense customization, a player run economy with like for instance, you can go and design a piece of clothing, put a bunch of your custom decals on it. You can make it like look like a copyrighted like brand if you want. Like they don't really enforce that. You can throw it up on the marketplace. You get the in-game monies, which isn't real money, but you can take that money and go buy other stuff with it. You can compose music. You can yeah, obviously customize cars, and there's skins for weapons which aren't really customizable. But
but it's like it's an open modding
yeah,
environment in a
kinda,
sense.
yeah. And then you get in the game and it's just PvP, just kind of generic missions, and then there's deathmatch, and they're actually they're coming out with a new game mode called Riot, which is their kind of spin on the battle royale genre, but it's not exactly that. There's no vehicles right now, and you kind of run. It feels weird. It feels weird to be playing that in APB, but it's something. The game's been bought and sold twice, so like this is the third company to own the. But why does it stay alive? Because the ideas behind it are pretty strong. It's just for some reason it just can't quite work. But why did I bring that up? Well, it is a free to play game. There is a currency. You do pay for premium. What does the premium get you? It gets you more progression in the game, like a pretty significant amount more. And there's some gameplay buffs too. You have these like abilities, like you can resupply faster, which is whatever. You can use the nitro in your car quicker, whatever. Yeah, it's kind of boring to talk about APB because it's so dated, and it needs a shot in the arm. And you know how I feel about battle royale. I'm not like super into it. So the game mode, it's like cool. Maybe we'll get some more players in, but I just go through phases with that game. I've probably played like 10,000 hours of it. So does that mean like I'm going back
Battle
to it?
Royale.
Yeah, I've played 10,000 hours of battle royale. No, I played 10,000 hours of APB. Yeah, they're an example of how free to play can be done wrong because like a lot of their income comes from these like Joker. They call them Joker mystery boxes. There's like legendary weapons you can maybe get if you're lucky. Like good luck getting those. And if you get one, you can go put it on you can actually go and put it on the player marketplace and sell it for there's some language that I could use to describe their system. It's just hard for me to put into words. I feel like I'm too close to it to have a good perspective on like how bad it is. I just like I've
Mhm.
always liked it because of the gunplay. It always felt good. It's the best third person shooter I've ever played as far as PvP.
I don't really like third person
I
shooters.
don't
That's
really either, but
rare.
that's one that I liked, and I think it's more that I like just got used to it. I was really into GTA. I was into GTA 3 and 4.
And isn't that what APB was anyways, was a GTA game?
Kinda. I mean, the one of the original creators of Grand Theft Auto was pretty heavily involved in that project. They spent $100 million on that game. It was
What?
published by EA. Yeah, it was promised to be this. It just bit off too much. To yeah, more than
More
it
than
could
it
chew.
could
Yeah, man,
bit off
it
too
bit off too much, bro. No,
Oh, man.
so yeah, one of the features is like it's like a who gives a shit thing, but like if you link to your last FM profile, which would they called it scrobbling the tracks. By the way, I've been scrobbling my tracks on Last FM for like almost 15 years now, so it has all my history of like what music I've listened to. I've been doing that since 2005. Anyway, neither here nor
Okay.
there. It it would try to play the track for everybody else around you, so that everyone else could hear like the song that you're listening to in your car. It
Uh-huh.
didn't really work though.
It didn't really work.
That's just like such a good metaphor for the game. It's like you tell the people like, oh man, you can dude, you could I can make my character look like whatever I want and like make my car look like whatever I want, and I can compose music and we can do all these cool things, and it's an MMO open world sandbox. It's not a sandbox. Open world Grand Theft Auto. It's like, holy shit, that looks
Mhm.
great. And you come in the game, it's just a bunch of people driving dump trucks around, griefing each other. There's Nazi symbols on everything. There's like dicks and like weird people trying to make their characters nude. Everyone's yelling like the N word at you. And it's just like,
Oh my god.
this is like a freaking nightmare. So, like,
Everyone's essentially reading
yeah, this is
something in the
I
water.
mean, that's the way it used to be. That's why we can't have nice things.
But that's like any Xbox Live lobby or, like, any multiplayer online game with open VoIP. Like, even PUBG in the lobby is like a meme in itself, like, turning on the audio in the lobby and just hearing the unanimous reeing of the lobby, you know? Just everyone swearing and
Yeah.
all kinds of crazy shit,
All right. So
screaming.
that's why I don't like open mics. I like open mics in when games launch with open mic. I hate it. Let's close off your deal breaker and let's just like give it like a summation of like this is what I think that you meant, and then you can correct me.
Okay.
I think your deal breaker is you don't like it when companies have unfair monetization practices, basically. And does that make you not? Does that make you just not want to play the game? We're talking about Payday 2 as the example.
Yeah, well, Payday 2, I feel like they shot the dog sort of thing, you
Hmm.
know, with the DLC thing.
So yes or
It
no?
killed
Yeah,
it.
just yes or no. Would you go back and play
Uh, I mean, I'd give it a try with
it?
friends, but, like, I
It sounds
didn't
like
really have fun.
it sounds like you really wouldn't even want to install it again.
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't.
Okay, okay. All right, here's my example, and it's kind of I guess I just watched you play it. So now this is an example that I'm just going to give, and it's not, and I'm going to preface it by saying this isn't necessarily what would prevent me from playing it, but this is an example of a deal breaker for me. And it gave me pause. Okay, I'm talking about
I know where
Escape
we're going.
Escape from Tarkov. Okay, and I guess just chronologically
Oh,
speaking,
oh, it hurts.
when I first heard about this game, I didn't know who Battle State Games was. I was always confused about like what the game was going to be. I didn't know like is this like a this kind of like DayZ or something, but it's like more realistic. This is just my dumb brain. Like I'm just looking at the footage and
Trying to
I didn't remember.
discern what it
It would have been like 2015, 2016, somewhere around there when I first heard of it. But I was really like taken aback by how they did their pre-order system. And
mm,
did you see the links? I had the archived pages of what their pre-orders look like. With the standard edition, no access to closed alpha, guaranteed participation in the closed and open beta. The Left Behind edition, 50% chance to be selected in the closed alpha, and guaranteed participation, blah, blah, blah. They all say that at the end. prepare for Escape Edition, 75% chance, and then the Edge of Darkness, guaranteed participation. I thought that was so weird to use. Yeah, I thought it was it felt sketchy to me that they used the chance to be selected for the closed alpha testing as like an incentive for their packs. And there's all sorts of other things that didn't make any sense to me because I'd never played the game. So what does it mean? Huge size of stash and all this stuff. I
Your
understand what it
mustache.
means
No,
now.
I'm kidding. That's how big your mustache is, dude.
Yeah.
If you want just a pencil stash, get the standard edition. If you want the big creature
Yeah.
stash, then you gotta go for the Edge of Darkness.
Combat Tactical Tomahawk, huh?
Oh, yeah.
That was one of the things.
Yeah.
But $139. I was just like, I was kind of appalled by that.
Yeah, dude, definitely. I wasn't gonna get that version at all, but that's the version I have now. I started
Oh,
with the
really?
standard version, and I have that version, and it's in
Wow.
part thanks
Yeah,
to
so
the community.
oh, cool, man. But I didn't understand at the time, you know. I was looking at like, oh, maybe this is a game that I'm going to stream. I ended up getting the Left Behind edition for free through one of the, like the PR firms that was handling the
Oh,
game.
fuck yeah.
And I got it later on. I got it later on, you
Is
know.
it a press edition
Um
or is it just left behind edition?
Left Behind edition is what I got. Yeah. Well, I mean, what a cool name for a freaking edition, Left Behind, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Abandoned. They abandoned it.
honestly, like as a streamer, I was like, well, if I'm going to stream this, of course, like getting the earliest access to it as possible is incentivized because you want to get in on the ground floor. And I didn't understand at the time that nobody was going to be able to stream during closed alpha. So that part of it didn't even matter, but my perception of it was poor because I'm going to be missing out just because I didn't pay extra money to get these other editions. But when in fact, to be honest, I didn't pay anything for the game. I got it for free. I've never actually streamed it. I should really stream it, but you know, is that a deal breaker for me? No, but it gave me pause. Like this weird practices for this game. And another thing, like that, I think there's a bit of a language barrier with how they put out their tweets and stuff
Mhm.
like that. And they were kind of relying on these guys they're calling emissaries to. I've never heard that used in like in the context of like gaming. These guys called emissaries that were going around and kind of promoting the game, like representing Battle State, but Battle State wasn't
Pinpoint
really
that,
coming out and well, they weren't like vetting them. They weren't like announcing them. They weren't like putting out tweets like, "Hey, check out this guy. You know, he's going to be promoting the game." These guys were just like coming out like, "We're emissaries of the game, bro. Like, you can play it. Like, check this out."
That's the thing is, like, there's the whole forum side of it too, like, a lot of people were taking part in just talking about the game, et cetera, even before it went out on based on what content they had. There was a fair amount of hype
Definitely,
behind the game. First time I saw anything about Escape from Tarkov was a
sure.
Jack Frags video, I think, or maybe it was a
Frankie on
Frankie
PC
video.
guy. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, 1080p. It was one of the 2, and at first I went, "Oh, so what? Like, a Russian dev version of DayZ? Oh, I bet it's gonna be, like, another cash grab." Like, that was my initial off the bat what I thought. And then I saw some in-game stuff, and I thought, "Okay, graphics look alright, interesting. It looks like somewhat hyper realistic," and I think they did showcase rotating
Mm.
items in your inventory. Like, we saw the inventory boxes, and I was like, "Ah, not the boxes again," 'cause it's kind of like I don't really like the box UI, but it makes sense at the end of the day. It makes sense. It's one way to create the UI so that you have some constraints for size, width, length. But the cool thing that I saw was the rotation, which Daisy didn't have until a couple months ago. So they finally
Oh
implemented
yeah.
it.
Yeah, they I mean, they definitely made some enhancements on a lot of that, and I don't know if the word realism is it can be used in any of these games. More like more grounded in reality. You're not just like a superhuman, just boom, 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 just sprinting everywhere. Like the way that you move tactically matters, right? Good sound design.
Questionable. I mean, in-depth sound design, but it still needs work. But
Yeah,
it's
sure,
better than a
everything.
lot of different,
Yeah,
a lot of other, things that have been brought to the table by
it's fucking immersive. It's impressive. It's an impressive game. But my whole thing was the whole reason we're talking about is like it gave me pause. Like I didn't know what to do with all that information. It really made it. I didn't have a lot of confidence in the developers because I didn't really know anything about them, and everything just came out kind of sketch. And then like this last year with their situation, this is an old situation, but I guess I'm going to bring it up because it happened, and I don't know how they've really addressed this. They issued DMCA takedowns on this guy named Eroctic's channel, around 47 videos last year in December, saying that it was lies and slander. The guy came out and he was criticizing them for different bugs in the game, and he mentioned that there was a chance that there were some data breaches going on. He wasn't telling people how to hack people's accounts, but he said that it was possible based on information that he had, blah blah blah. There wasn't really anything that the guy said that was illegal, and if anything, like just using the DMCA takedown system like that was a total abuse. It's actually illegal to do that here in the US. Although I don't think there's been any precedents of like people being charged using that system illegally, but it ended up being this whole kerfuffle, and they never really took ownership for doing that. I don't think, did they? Did they ever apologize for doing that? I know that they released the DMCA complaints eventually, but I think they just like brushed it off and moved on, and people just kind of don't really talk about it anymore. The people that got super pissed, like got people that knew him, there were actually a lot of people that didn't like that guy
Yeah,
specifically. I don't know
I'm
him
not
at
sure what
all. People didn't like him, the guy who got his videos taken down, but they still were like, "Hey, what the fuck, man? You can't just use the DMCA system to take down videos."
right, because that's a matter of, like, principle as well.
Right. It's just
It's, like, ethically questionable to act in a illegal manner just to prove a point,
yeah, and
essentially,
I
even if it's not necessarily illegal in your country, but I think they have, there's here, user rights and bounds of use of the game.
video images, video clips, as well as other elements of the game belong without exception to the legal right holders, of course. Now, what does that actually mean? Does that mean that they can go and take things down whenever they want to? It's not a good look, man. Whether it's legal or not, it's like not a good look. And
I don't think that just because they have it in their license agreement, that it necessarily trumps the legality of it. It's still technically illegal, but, it can be argued. What they did was not right at the end of the day. It was not right, and I was worried during this whole fiasco because I genuinely enjoy the game despite its shortcomings.
you're worried about bad mouthing them and getting videos taken down or something?
No, 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 no. I was worried that all of the ruckus, all everything that was stirring the pot up would cause the unraveling of the game itself because you had this thing with the DMCA takedowns and the
I know what you're
licensing
talking about.
agreement sort of
Yep.
fiasco. Then suddenly they're saying, "Okay, well, you don't have
License for the
the
weapons.
actual licensing to use these weapon mods, etcetera, that they're putting in because they're using real weapon mods.
Yep.
They're based on real world copyrighted things that they need licensing to use or to portray. And in most cases, most companies would be all for it because in a sense it's sort of free marketing, free advertising in a sense,
Right.
right? It's being put in the eyes of thousands or however many X amount of people, and it's your product. And now people know about your product, so they can search it out in the real world and find it and purchase it. So in most situations, that would be good for these companies. But
But
a lot of these companies noticed what happened with the DMCA takedowns and said, "All right, well, if we want to talk about legality, you're saying he didn't have the right to present this information in this manner, and so you hit him with these DMCA takedowns, regardless of the legality of doing that. Now we are redacting or otherwise making it officially known that we do not give you the right to use these weapon mods in your game because of in like retroactively saying that in context to this whole thing with Eroctic." So I immediately was worried that this would be the unraveling of Tarkov with all the legal trouble that could follow suit. That it might eventually lead to the game um, having like not a net positive. The opposite.
having a major crisis, dude, I don't think that we've seen the net result of all of this. I don't think that everything has come down from it. So we'll just have to see how it goes.
I think it's been brushed under the carpet, dude. I think it's
I think that there's some shit going on behind the scenes, man. Who knows? But I certainly haven't heard of any sort of lawsuits being filed or sort of copyright claims or whatever. I think that a lot of gun companies and that nowadays just don't want any like unwanted attention nowadays. So just drawing attention, because every time there's a, we're not going to get into politics on this show right now, but anytime there's a crisis involving guns, like they're already in the limelight and they don't want to be. So just like, listen, we know our audience. You see guns in the game, that's cool, man. Whatever. Like, don't involve us in your fucking drama. We
Right.
don't want any more drama. So anyway, that's an example of a deal breaker for me. And it does actually, like, it definitely does shine a bad light on on that whole company for me. I don't know. I don't trust them, honestly. I why would I?
Yeah, no, they definitely ruined the goodwill of like the trust in the company. But that was, to be honest, me coming into it the very
Yeah.
first time I saw it, I said I immediately thought it was gonna be like a War
Uh
Z-esque cash grab. I thought it was gonna be just you know, a copy paste, a pastiche of what has already been done, just nothing new, nothing interesting. I didn't trust them. I thought it was just gonna be another one of those. What was the other game that failed miserably, which was kind of like it was roguelike, and there were these weird, Nether,
right.
that's what it was called.
Yep. There's all
Dude,
sorts of
Nether, such a failed piece of shit, like, such a cash grab piece of shit. Yeah, Nether, so talking about Emotive, god damn it, Nether pissed me off. So I thought it was gonna be just another one of those.
I guess, well, since we kind of, well, let me just button up this, because this is the episode that we are working on right now. It's called Deal Breakers, and it's just like shit that makes you not want to play a game. Things that give you pause when you think about playing games. And for me, Escape from Tarkov, Battlestate Games, they fucked up for me, man. Like, but at the same time, nothing is really a deal breaker for me, unless, I don't know, like, I don't think anything is a deal breaker. Everything's on the table. I can separate the game from the people that made it for the most part. Unless they have, here's the thing: if it would have been one of my friends that they did the DMC takedown on,
It would become
out of
personal.
respect, I
Right.
would never touch that game again. I would never stream it. And I understand why the people that distance themselves from it, I understand why they did. But for me, if my friends are playing it, I'm going to play it, but that's subject to change too. Doesn't mean you're ever like in support of something forever. Willing to change my mind.
It's definitely it did I definitely was caught on the same foot, but I was swayed by the actual product itself
Sure.
more so
No,
than
and I think that's common, bro. I think that's common.
yeah, I feel like they could definitely take steps to hire a public relations professional that goes over, like, what is acceptable and what isn't acceptable. But there's such a it is actually, we forget that it's not a triple A company, it's a small company,
It doesn't matter
It's
nowadays, man. Like, you gotta be, when
I
if you're gonna create hype around a game, you better be able to back it up with some solid, like, if you're making a bunch of money, you need to have the infrastructure behind it. And
that
it sucks
that's
because
for
you
sure.
learn by mistakes, but it's just the way it goes. And is that going to mean that people are going to shy away from you in the future? Is it going to be a stain on your reputation? Yeah, probably. But what are you going to do? All you can do is correct your mistakes by just going overboard in the other direction. Just doing things above board and being transparent to an extent, right? To an extent.
I still think that they should definitely hire someone who can say, like, if they're going, this guy's pissing us off. Let's strike him with 54
Hmm.
DMCA claims. They should have someone in place that goes, guys, not legal,
A
not
system of
legal. Let's
checks and
see what.
balances, which would mean like a
Right,
lawyer
exactly.
on retainer that can answer these questions. There are people out there that can help them. Okay, so that's my deal breaker, bro. People that break laws and like hurt other creators and lie. Well, I don't know if they really lied necessarily. People that are just unprofessional. But like I said again, like, nothing is a deal breaker unless it affects someone I know personally. And that's kind of where I was with APP when I quit that game. Shit went down in that game, and it was, boy, some spicy drama. And then said I'd never play it again, and then I was back playing it in about a year. But where am I going with this? That's the end.
We were wrapping up.
We're wrapping up the deal breaker topic. let's end on a positive note, because we talked of like the idea. I wanted to have a whole flip side of this, but we're gonna get it's gonna go way too long, like probably, and that's fine. Let's fine, but let's try to like always end on a positive note. What's a game that's really drawing you in right now, other than
That's
this?
drawing me
Is there
in.
another one?
Like the prior to this longer stunt of getting
Mm.
back into EFT, I was testing the waters with Kenshi, which is a very interesting and alternative indie game by a pretty small company, but it's very very interesting. I was having fun with that game. I was pretty immersed just because of how unique it was. But that's once again they had a lot of creative freedom with Kenshi.
Is that just a single player game?
It is a single player game. Yeah.
What kind of mood are you in when you play it? Like, is it something to pass the time? Is it kind of meditative? Is it immersive? Like, what is it?
Well, it's kinda like an RPG. I've also, like
Mhm.
I've named characters after people in the community, and,
Oh,
like, I've
cool.
trained them for certain roles, sort of, and, like, it's kind of yeah, it's kind of this weird role-playing, sort of, like, micromanaging game. The world is interesting, and the characters are kinda interesting, and the brutality of it is interesting. It's definitely a game with style, also riddled with problems. There's something about broken games that have a special place in my heart. But, other than Kenshi and Tarkov,
Tarkov.
Sekiro came out. Sekiro was a huge hit, super hardcore again. I guess what has been drawing me in have been games that make me feel like they're difficult, but they're not it's not impossible. Like, it's not something I can't achieve. When I achieve it, I feel like the experience and whatever salt I may have expressed on the journey there was worthwhile because, you're finally I'm not even sure how to put it into words. It's like it's testing your ability. It's not completely impossible, but it's pretty difficult. Have you watched any Kenshi? Kenshi is love.
No, I was actually looking at some of it right now on Steam.
And what about Sekiro? Did you
Yeah.
watch anybody play Sekiro? It's like Dark Souls, but samurai and ninja and stuff.
I have heard of this. Yes. $60.
It
Wow. Okay.
really great
Well,
game.
Activision.
The audio was interesting, the gameplay was challenging, but fun. I'm still technically on I have not beat the last boss, so
Yeah,
mm.
man. I haven't really been playing anything lately. And what I have been playing, I don't even want to it's so weird. I've been playing the PvE portion of Fortnite, which anytime anyone says that word, there's like everyone's like,
What,
"Wait,
Fortnite?
no. You should die probably before you play that." Yeah. But the PvE side and it's almost in like a self-hating way, but it's just been a good way to like pass the time, and I'm barely paying attention to what I'm doing. I'm just going through the campaign with it. And I'm admitting it because that's what I've been playing, but I'm not. It's weird that I have to defend myself for playing it. But like I actually came out a couple months ago and said that I would probably never play it again. But then I got drawn back
Mhm.
into it because the I was playing
Oh,
Satisfactory and the content ended for that. And Fortnite is also in the Unreal launcher, so I was like, I'll install that, and then it's been a way to just pass time. I wanted to play 7 Days to Die soon. I actually got a multiplayer server installed for it.
that that's something I know that you keep saying that it's, like, worthwhile and great, but that's something that
You
I
look
look
at
at
it and
it
you
and I'm just
can't get
like,
past it, right? It's weird. It's such a weird
That's a deal
the
breaker for you,
visuals,
dude.
eh?
It's a deal breaker. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, dude. I'm sorry. It's just so flat, maybe.
Hey man, I feel like I don't
Uh,
have to justify myself to anyone because I mean
no,
I
no, 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 no.
came through a generation of playing Counter Strike for like over a decade. So the honestly PvP games I'm not as drawn into anymore. I'm more drawn into like co-op and sort of very challenging PvE scenarios.
Wasn't it you who told me to get the Blackout Club and then we never played? Dude, I played the tutorial and it scared the shit out of me.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Did you actually you got the key from wherever, right?
Yeah, yeah, like terminals or whatever.
Yeah, I got an email about that game, so we might have to delve into that. I'm always down for a co-op experience. Not as much and with PvP just because I'm getting older and I always had like an expectation to be competitive in games. and I don't want to get that invested in them anymore. I can play casually and have fun, but if I get drawn into like this competitive mindset in a game, I'm just setting myself up for disappointment. And then am I really having fun? And then like, is it worth my time? I don't know.
Yeah. This
It's
was this
weird.
was
It's
like an
weird.
acid trip, but like a bad trip. And like I was like legit during the tutorial, I was like screaming at some point. You know that
Um,
like someone is following, like, oh, he's right behind me, sort of thing. Like that's what I got out of it.
yeah.
That during the
Was it cool though?
it was cool.
You think it's
It
gonna
was
be?
cool. It's like
Yeah,
this is a Dead by Daylight that I would play. I have Dead by Daylight, don't play it. Fucking hate the game.
I'm down, dude.
Definitely like a bad acid trip. It's really, really weird, but also very interesting.
We'll just kind of end the discussion there. Thanks for doing this, man. I think that we got a good starting
Hell
point,
yes.
and I don't really know what the exact format of it is going to be. I didn't want it to be super structured. I wanted to see like what works, and I wanted to see what we enjoyed talking about together, and what burning questions we can try to answer, really. And that's really all that it is, man. If you enjoyed the show, consider subscribing or following if you're listening on Twitch, so you can stay up to date with future episodes. You can find me on Twitter at Orangesherb, and also follow the show at Emotive Podcast for updates and to interact with me. I'd love to hear your feedback. You can also email the show with questions or suggestions at emotivepodcast@gmail.com. Thank you for listening, and I hope to see you in the next episode.